Hey, listeners, welcome to episode 10. We're in double digits of the Sport Fanatics podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm J. Mike.
Today, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, a little bit MLB, some racing. That's today's episode, but for now, here's the theme song.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
Yeah, but inside scoop, it's actually raining here right now again. We've had so much rain this summer.
We have. Starting to feel like, Seattle?
Like the rainforest out there on that peninsula. Yeah, west of Seattle. Yeah, believe it or not, we actually get less rain. We actually get more rain here than in Seattle on the average, like in the city
I did not
of
know
Seattle.
that.
Yeah, but it's just like a few miles west of Seattle, there's this rainforest, a real small rainforest, and that's where the stereotype comes from.
Okay.
It's where they filmed Twilight, out in that rainforest. Everybody's favorite movie on I'm sure our listeners' favorite movie is the Twilight series.
I saw a really funny meme, or what they call them, GIFs or whatever, where it's a picture and it goes how Twilight should have ended, and it's got Robert Pattinson's vampire character and his girlfriend, who he ends up turning into a vampire.
Oh, yeah.
They ended up falling in love with each other. And in the background, you see Wesley Snipes' Blade character. And he's just back there like, man, I'm fixing to gank him.
The crossover everyone wanted.
And I looked at that and I just started busting out laughing. I said, yeah, that's exactly how it should have ended, because I went to, unfortunately, see a couple of those movies with my ex-girlfriend, but at the time, and I absolutely hated that series. But how
I can
great
see.
would that have been? Blade comes down from nowhere and ganks them both, and everybody applauds and cheers that hates the Twilight series.
Yeah, the only way I saw them was the riff tracks of them, so that was made it bearable.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to see them things in theaters. And
it was awful.
Too bad you couldn't call Wesley Snipes in.
Yeah.
But talking about sports, I guess we'll start with NBA. With that
let's dive right into it.
The
Chris.
finals. The Bucks, they got that 3-2 lead now, winning on the road. The first road win of the series so far, 123-119,
and a 16-point comeback victory for the Milwaukee Bucks over the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, how about that? The Phoenix started strong. And
it looked like that they were going to control the game for the most part, considering they jumped out.
Well, it's kind of what we expected at first, because we were talking about going back to Phoenix.
They would be favored.
Oh yeah,
because the home team in this series had won every game, of course, prior to Game 5, and you knew that the Suns would be favored in that aspect. And plus, they had, just like the Bucks in this postseason, had played so well at home, and they just jump out to that big lead, and Milwaukee calls timeout, starts to regroup, starts to come up with a different game plan. And I'll tell you what, Chris, it sure did work, because for pretty much the whole second half, Milwaukee had the lead. And there were only a few instances late in the fourth quarter where Phoenix had cut it to, 3.
Yeah, it was close. And the only reason why
2 and then 1.
And the only reason it got that close was because of the poor free throw shooting from Giannis.
Which, credit the rest of the players out on the floor for getting the rebound off of his missed free throws, which was absolutely crucial to how the Suns lost this Game 5.
Yeah, all they needed was to get some of them rebounds. It was like, I mean, they weren't doing this, obviously. It was almost like Milwaukee was doing that thing where you purposefully miss the free throw to get the rebound.
Towards the end of the game. Yeah.
They just kept doing that over and over. It's what it felt like.
But obviously it was working for Milwaukee because Phoenix couldn't snag the rebound off of the missed free throws.
Well, and at that point of the game, when you're in that situation, having possession and taking off time is more valuable than anything.
Yes.
So it worked out.
Especially in a game where you're up by only 3, 2, or 1 point,
right?
Which that was pretty much the sequence.
Yeah, one possession
there towards the end of that Game 5.
And another great performance by that trio of Giannis minus the free throw shooting, Middleton and Holiday.
Yes, and we have talked about it on numerous occasions. If that three-headed monster is on, that Phoenix would have to shoot at a very, very, very good percentage, which they were able to do, but they're still not able to secure rebounds off of missed free throws or missed shots in general, turning the basketball over. How about the Drew Holiday forced turnover on Devin Booker as he was trapped?
Yeah, well,
down only 1 point.
Well, that defense, you talked about it. That defense coming in strong for the Bucks,
and they've done it in back-to-back games now.
Yeah,
which have secured them 2 wins to tie and take the lead in this series all of a sudden. And like we said on the previous show, defense wins you championships, and the Bucks with 2 big-time stops, big-time defensive plays that helped them to 2 big wins in this series, none bigger than Game 5, giving them a 3-2 series lead with a chance to win it all back on their home court, where they are now 9-1 overall this postseason.
Yeah, and that's huge for them. It really puts Phoenix on their heels. It's back against the wall right now.
It is a must win, as we all know.
Well, and Phoenix has just got to – they need somebody other than Booker, because, I mean, Booker still had a great game.
Yeah.
But –
Not getting help.
Yeah, they just didn't have a strong trio like
like Milwaukee. Exactly. And I'll say it again. To keep up with those 3 when they're playing at a high level, you have got to have somebody compliment you on the Suns to stay in it. And because they shot at a decent percentage in Game 5, they were able to stay in that ball game. Just imagine if they weren't shooting the basketball well.
Yeah.
We're looking at another blowout.
Mm-hmm.
But I've said that if all 3 are on the same page, they are winning the championship, and that's exactly what they have done, and they've got a great opportunity tonight to win it all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It leans heavily in favor of Milwaukee.
No doubt
like you said, they've been so good at home, And this series, home for the most part, has been an advantage for both teams until
Game 5.
Until Game 5. And also, it's just all the momentum right now is with the Bucks. All the tangibles that you want going into a clinching game is on the side of Milwaukee right now. It's going to take some real, just an incredible effort and turnaround from Phoenix.
No doubt. And I'm looking right here at Chris Paul's, what he's averaging this series. He's averaging 21 points per game, 8.8 assists per game, and the biggest stat of them all, 18 turnovers in this series.
Yeah, that's just killer, disastrous.
And then you look at Giannis's performance in this series, where he's averaging 32.2 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, and 5.6 assists per game. So you look at the two MVPs on each squad, and Giannis is outperforming Chris Paul, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, this is also just a entirely different series if Chris Paul is just, he doesn't even have to be performing quite as crazily as Giannis. If he's just marginally better, like maybe another 4 or 5 points a game,
yeah,
that's a huge difference, because these past two games have been really close. And like last night, or on Game 5, if he gets another
Saturday
5, gets another 5 or 6 points, I mean that's the game for the Suns. Now, of course, I know that would change the ending and how things are going, but with the free throw shooting from Giannis, I feel like if Phoenix has the lead at the end, it'll be hard for them to lose it. It's just that they keep
because just hack Giannis, but Monty Williams telling his guys at the line, snag the rebound.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I mean, you're playing keep away at this point. You're playing keep away from Milwaukee, and that's not what they were able to do in Game 5, and it ultimately cost them a huge game, because now 81% of teams up 3-2 in the NBA Finals go on to win the series.
Yeah.
You're going back to Milwaukee. They're 9-1 overall this postseason on their home court. Teams are now 4-21 when down 3-2 in NBA Finals history. So Suns are not on the right side of history.
For sure.
Only 4 teams, though, have won a Game 6 on the road to force a Game 7. They are the 2005 Detroit Pistons over the San Antonio Spurs. Ironically, the 1974 Milwaukee Bucks over the Boston Celtics. The 1962 Boston Celtics over the Los Angeles Lakers. And how about this? The 1954 Nationals over the Los Angeles Lakers. The only team that ended up winning the series, winning Game 6 and 7, were the 62 Celtics.
That's surprising. You would think that once you win Game 6 on the road, you would have all the momentum going back home for Game 7. So you'd think that at that point the percentages would favor you again, but apparently not. It's just one team that's managed to do it.
Yes, and that was the 1962 Celtics.
Wow.
But only 4 teams have won a road Game 6 when down 3-2.
So yeah, at this point, the Suns are going to have to really defy history.
They do. And also to note that if Chris Paul loses tonight, he would become the first player to lose 4 best-of-7 series when his team led 2-0.
Oh, that would feel... Well, I can't imagine how that would feel. I mean, I know how that would feel as a fan, but as a player, that just... In this series, we've seen how Chris Paul hasn't quite been able to pull off those clutch moments, and he's had those detrimental moments where he's turned the ball over.
Oh yeah, but
at important times.
And it's crazy to think that in the closeout game over the Clippers, he was on fire. That second half, he was hitting shot after shot. It seemed like in that fourth quarter, just nailing them, putting the nail in the coffin of the Los Angeles Clippers. And since game 1 of the NBA Finals, where I believe he scored 32 points.
Yeah.
Since that game, he has not been the same player.
Yeah, we were thinking, or at least I was thinking, well, maybe this was the time where he was finally going to show out and win that final.
And he's had great looks, don't get me wrong. He's not making those shots. Also, credit Mike Budenholzer's game plan on him defensively.
Yeah.
He and Booker.
That's true. Like, we can't...
Since game 2, their defensive game plan on stopping these guys, they have executed it very well. Because, look, once again, Milwaukee trailing by 16 in Game 5, which was tied the third largest comeback for Milwaukee in NBA Finals history in the last 25 seasons, I might add. But call a timeout, and they just come up with this strategy, and the next thing you know, they're stopping the Suns on that end of the floor. And they're quickly getting the basketball back. And let me tell you, Chris, it started raining threes with Connaughton.
Mm-hmm.
I know PJ Tucker hit a few there. Holiday's the one that kept them in that first half, Chris.
Yeah,
knocking some big time 3-pointers.
Well,
I believe he only had one or two misses in the first half from 3. Well, so he had a pretty good percentage from 3.
And you just mentioned Connaughton. I mean, shout out to him. Great game off the bench.
Yes.
He had 14 points.
Something that the Suns do not have right now, Chris, which is really waning on them.
The Suns got a total of 15 points from the bench total.
It's not going to get it done against this squad. It's just not.
And you made me think of some. Oh yeah, and it may just be it's perhaps a viable strategy from the Bucks. I mean, just if you're gonna let someone go off, let Booker go off, and just focus on keeping Chris Paul in check. And maybe that's that's contributing to kind of what you were saying. That's contributing to why Chris Paul. I mean, it's not like we know Chris Paul is a good player, a great player,
no doubt.
So they're shutting him down after they figured out in Game 1, and they're working to just, if they're going to let someone do damage, let it be Booker. Don't let Paul do it.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, because it made me just think about how, in my opinion, in this series, we all know how bad Chris Paul wants to win an NBA championship. But it seems like he's trying too much. He's been trying too much in this series. He's been pressing. In tonight's game, for this Suns team to win tonight, to force a Game 7 and bring it back to Phoenix, Arizona, Chris Paul has got to be that floor general. And we talked about just a few moments ago about playing keep away. Mm-hmm. He needs to do that on the time of possession. Control the time of possession. over Milwaukee. Because we've all seen what they've done in 3 straight games offensively. They have clicked and they have been cohesive. So it's time, Chris Paul, to get back to being the floor general, being the facilitator, but letting the clock go down. But make sure when that clock is starting to count down from 10 on, that you set up a great play, and you and or your teammates are knocking down those shots. Because if that doesn't work, then yeah, you're going to be in trouble, especially if that 3-headed monster is continuing to do what they do.
And on the defensive side, which part of that 3-headed monster do you most focus on shutting down?
It's got to be Giannis inside. Double team him, make Middleton, Holiday, Connaughton, Tucker, make those guys shoot the basketball and hope and pray that they miss a good majority of the time. But like I just touched on, Giannis averaging 32.2 points per game in this series.
Right.
You got to stop him first.
Even if it means making him just shoot a bunch of free throws.
Yeah, if you have to hack him. But I'm sure Monty Williams the past couple of days has honed in on telling his guys, hey, look, we have got to snag the rebounds when he misses his free throw shots. We have got to.
Well, and that's similarly, that's something the Suns have got to fix.
Because then the Bucks use the same keep away strategy all of a sudden from the Sun and melt the clock down, and then guys that have been, guys that knocked the shots down for him in Game 5, Middleton, Holiday, Connaughton, end up getting a clutch shot, and then you're like, oh shucks, oh well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's one.
What can we do?
The Suns have to fix that. You can't be losing that many rebounds when the other team is shooting free throws.
And the only time the Bucks lost a home game in this series was to the Atlanta Hawks. You want to know why? Because they shot at a high level, and they were scrappy and just stayed with them. And I'm not trying to compare the Hawks to the Suns, but the Suns have got to have that same mentality tonight. We've got to be this pestering gnat that's just going to stay in each player's face. Force them to make bad shots, force them to turn the ball over, and then we have to execute on the offensive end. But it's time to steal a page from the Atlanta Hawks, in my opinion. You got to play like those guys did in that first game of the Eastern Conference Finals, because if you don't, then Milwaukee is going to win their first championship in 49 seasons, dating back to the 1971 Milwaukee Bucks. So that would be their first championship since then.
Yeah, and again, got to be feeling pretty good about their chances. Suns, it's just tough because they're going to have to pull off that amazing game, like you said, where they shoot just incredibly well. And I guess the good news for them is they don't really have to do that twice. They really just need to focus on trying to get this back home and then just playing their game at that point.
They played outstanding. They played outstanding in that first quarter.
Oh, they did.
But then from second quarter on, it was Milwaukee's game.
Yeah.
The Suns started to let Milwaukee play their game. And that's definitely not what needs to happen tonight if you want to force a Game 7.
And again, that goes into saying it just seems like
keep them off balanced.
It seems like the Bucks are making the best adjustments throughout this series.
Credit the coaching staff and credit the players. They're going back to the drawing board. They're coming up with ideas that have not only have changed games, but have changed the momentum in a huge way in this series.
Oh yeah, 3 games in a row.
Credit their whole entire staff and players on just going out and executing it and getting it done, especially on the defensive end with those 2 huge stops. You know, the one in Game 4 and the one in Game 5. So obviously, I like Milwaukee tonight.
Yeah, Milwaukee may throw our prediction off a bit here, and you have to feel good about their chances to take this home in Game 6 tonight.
Oh yes, they've just been dominant at home. They have all the momentum in this series after winning 3 straight, and they are playing the best team basketball for sure. They are just so cohesive once they get going, and they've been unstoppable at home. So the Suns have got to fight and scrap tonight. And I'd also like to point out just a couple of things before we close this segment out, if I can, Chris. Of course, Suns at Bucks, Game 6 tonight at 8 o'clock on ABC. Bucks lead the series 3-2. This is the first time that the Phoenix Suns have faced elimination this postseason.
Oh, wow.
And one more thing to note of, and this is also Chris Paul and the Suns being on the wrong side of things, as they have been in the last 3 games, as we have seen. But Chris Paul has lost his last 12 playoff games when Scott Foster was head referee. Guess who is the head crew chief tonight for tonight's Game 6?
I'm guessing the person Chris Paul doesn't want.
Scott Foster.
Oh. Well, that's an interesting tidbit. I wonder. All right, Chris Paul, you gotta shut that out if you're thinking about it. Hopefully not.
So yeah, if you have to play the time of possession, do it. But just make sure when you pass the ball or you shoot it yourself that those shots are falling for you.
And for goodness sake,
because we all know when Giannis and them are out in transition, it's like a dead-gum freight train coming.
And for goodness sake, get the rebound off those missed free throws.
Yes. And when you have to resort to hack a Giannis, as we're now going to call it, hack a Giannis, and they cannot turn the ball over tonight as well. Phoenix, Chris Paul, 18 turnovers this series. You cannot turn the basketball over. You have got to play your style of basketball, not Milwaukee's. And do not let Milwaukee get ahead of you. Do not play catch-up tonight. And no, I'm not talking about Heinz ketchup. Heinz or Hunt's ketchup. But don't
Yum.
But don't play their game tonight just because they're at home. Be the team that's hungry. Be the team that enjoys having your back against the wall, because let me tell you, I'd much rather have my back against the wall down 3-2 than to be up 3-2 right now. I want to go into Milwaukee with something to prove and saying, we're not done yet.
Well, and the tough part for the Suns is they haven't had to do that yet. So we're going to find out for the first time this postseason.
First time this postseason, if they have what it takes to go into Milwaukee, beat them, and force a Game 7, we shall see.
All right, well, moving on to a story that's not quite as fun. Well, honestly, two stories that aren't quite as fun, but I guess one more humorous than the other. The first one, the more serious one, that shooting that happened outside the Nationals Park was the night of the 17th, so a few nights ago.
Yeah, Saturday night.
Yeah.
During the NBA Finals Game 6.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on, so I just see on Twitter trending that something had happened. Yeah. So there was a lot of confusion, of course, those first few hours.
Yeah, for me, I was watching the game. Well, I take that back. I wasn't watching the NBA Finals game just yet because I actually don't believe it had started. So I was watching Red Sox Yankees on Fox.
Oh, okay.
Where, as we all have seen today, as we're filming this on a Tuesday afternoon where it has rained constantly. Yeah. It rained constantly during that game that night. And I remember they quickly cut to a game break, as they call it, on Fox. And they also do it on NFL Sundays. They'll say, well, a quick game break here, and they'll go into another game where somebody had just scored. But They did a game break, and that's when Kevin Burkhardt of Fox Sports said that the game between the Nationals and the Padres had been postponed due to gunfire outside of Nationals Park. And then a sight that I did not want to see, you see fans fleeing from the outfield gates. Yeah. Just fleeing, ducking their heads, trying to keep moving, but to be in a safe position to do so.
Well, and it reminds you of the footage.
A sight that I hated and did not want to see.
Oh, of course. I mean, it makes you think of the footage of people running during the Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
When people were running away. I mean, that was the confusion at first, is since it was just right outside the stadium, you don't know if that's in the park or not. When there's so much noise already in a ballpark.
And I remembered watching another video where, and what's crazy is the Nationals had just gotten out of the top part of that inning, so they were fixing to come to bat, and you see the catcher and the pitcher start to hear the gunfire, and they immediately turned around and looked towards the outfield area.
That shows how loud it was, because everybody in the stadium heard it.
What was it reported that 4 people were shot?
Yeah, I think there were. I think that originally that was the report. I think later it was said that there were actually only 3 injuries.
Okay,
and they were all people who showed up to the hospital later that were in the cars. I think where the shooting happened.
Okay,
between those 2 cars outside the stadium. So I mean, thankfully, let me double check real quick. I don't think any. Of course, we know nobody in the stadium got hurt, at least.
And what blows my mind is, Chris, is we were only, close to a week from whenever the Colorado State Police in Denver caught the 4 guys in that hotel room with all of those guns and ammunition and stuff, and were able to stop a mass shooting either before or during the All-Star game.
Right. Like we had just dodged
and
actual...
And then you just fast forward some days later, and then this happens, unfortunately, in Washington, D.C., where we've already seen a number of chaos happen at.
Yeah, some events have gone down. And, I mean, if any of those fans had seen that report, it was probably in the back of their mind as soon as they heard the noise.
Because another footage, I guess I could say, showed where Nationals people, so to speak, told the fans to remain seated while they quickly start to resolve the issue. And once again, I hated seeing this, but you're seeing fans duck under their seats because, like you said, Chris, at that point, you don't know where the gunfire is coming from. Right. Now, I just touched on the two players immediately looking towards center field, but still,
you just know it's in that general area somewhere.
But you have no idea really, and so that's when the chaos and the panic ensues, and it's just a sight. It's just a sight that I did not want to see, and I absolutely hated it. And then there was another footage that showed concession stand area, tables, all of that good stuff, and fans are fleeing, knocking over the tables and or hiding under the tables.
Yeah,
because they have no idea what to do. They're just trying to get the safety in the best way that they possibly can.
Yeah. Well, and one quick correction I want to make. So, 3 people were injured. 2 of them were in one of the cars, and they, walked to the hospital later.
Wow.
And, of course, they're being questioned and everything.
Yeah.
The third one was a woman who was attending the game and was struck while she was outside the stadium. So, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm guessing she must have already been outside the stadium when it happened, obviously. So It's not like she was running away and then got struck, I would assume. But her injuries aren't considered life-threatening. So
thank the Lord.
All in all, got out of this pretty lucky. It was just, of course, terrifying for the people who were there.
Yes, and it's just so unfortunate now to where if you're thinking about going to a sporting event, you're questioning whether to do so out of safety precautions.
Well, and
whether it's COVID related or
because that's ticking back up with the Delta variant,
or some mad person that's absolutely sick and twisted wants to kill people.
Well, and not that you should be having a shootout between cars anywhere, but what a weird place to do it, right by
ballpark.
A baseball stadium where there's a bunch of people and security and police around.
Yeah.
It's just, well, I guess dumb people are going to do dumb things, but still.
Yeah, it's just the world is a nasty and cruel place right now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is. It's just unfortunate that you all of a sudden don't really feel safe going to a sporting event now. And sports, you and I love sports. This is a sports podcast. Sports, from a fan's perspective, is a great way to get away from things, to get away from your job and all of the things that you go through in a job, whether it be anxiety, depression, or whatnot. to help you get away from your job, and just events that are going on in your life, to get away, to go watch a highly competitive sports game is what we all do to get away from things, and to help us enjoy ourselves, bring a smile to our faces. And it's just unfortunate that it's come to now safety, keeping your safety first because of COVID and or shootings.
Well, and it's a reminder that, yeah, we like to escape in sports and entertainment, but sports and the people involved are real people, and it's part of the real world. And unfortunately, sometimes they, cross paths. And of course, that also means that, I'm not going to get too far off in the weeds. I know sometimes people hate it when politics and things gets into sports, but again, sports are part of the real world, so there will be intersection there sometimes, and I'm not going to call that unfortunate, because sometimes things have to be said or stood up for or protested against. Now this is a case of just something nobody wants intersecting with the sports world and reminding you of some of the terrible events that happen across the country. But a bit of hope and good news here. There have always been sick and twisted people. There have always been bad things happen. And I actually feel like we're becoming less violent now than we were. The 70s and 80s were, really bad for violence and crime. And I believe things have gotten better, and worldwide we're getting better as a species. It's just that now we're so interconnected, and we know all of the news immediately when it happens, and social media, we instantly know everything. So sometimes it can be overwhelming. So I guess that's a reminder to not ignore the events of life and what's happening around you. So, we need to do everything we can to stop crime like this and hopefully improve people's mental health. So we need better mental health so that we don't have more mass shooting issues. And of course, there'll be a whole debate on guns that we won't get into here. But it's a reminder not to forget about that, but also don't get so, I guess, deep into it, that like into social media, like your Facebook feed and all this, that you're driving yourself crazy. You still need those outlets like movies and games, and yes, sports.
Yeah, to keep you entertained.
Yeah, to
keep your mind off of that mess.
Exactly. You've got to give yourself a break every now and then. So
you do.
So the good news is, yes, sports are still a way for you to get a break from that. It's just unfortunate that sometimes the worlds do cross, and this was an instance where the real world crossed over into the entertainment sports world.
Yeah, and I hate when it does that and affects sports and sporting events.
For sure, because no one wants shootings and no one wants their escape being affected by a similar
in a violent way,
in a violent shooting. Now, again, thankfully, this was outside the stadium. It wasn't a situation like what could have gone down at Coors Field. So all in all, we were fortunate here, but it was definitely a scare for everyone, but especially those fans at Nationals Park.
Yeah.
But again, just so thankful that it didn't end up worse than it was.
Yes. Very, very thankful indeed.
And now I guess we'll move on to a little bit more lighthearted but somewhat serious story. A Yankees fan.
I know where this is going with Chris.
A Yankees fan has been...
I saw when it happened. I was watching the game.
See, ahead. I actually wasn't watching live when it happened, but I saw about it later. A Yankees fan got banned for life from MLB parks for throwing a ball and hitting Alex Verdugo in the back from the stands.
Yes. While it's still pouring down raining in the Bronx.
Yeah.
At Yankee Stadium.
Needless to say, don't do that. I mean, the Yankees put out a statement like, while we appreciate the spirit, while we appreciate the spirit and passion of our fans and our various rivalries, especially with the Red Sox, reckless,
you gotta love that.
Reckless, disorderly, and dangerous behavior that puts the safety of the players, field staff, and fellow fans in jeopardy will not be tolerated. And
you don't love that.
Well, yeah, that's the right statement.
I just meant the opening part of the statement. As a Yankee fan, you gotta love it because they're still like, oh boy, we still hate the Red Sox and they're our rival, but
just don't.
There are certain lines that you cannot cross, and that's definitely one of them.
This has made me think though, you got to be careful if you're a fan and you catch the home run ball for the opposing team, you want to throw it back. You better be careful you don't accidentally hit the other.
Oh my gosh,
player, because you're gonna get banned for life.
And it is crazy that now that has happened in baseball, where in the first round of the NBA playoffs, you saw Westbrook get pelted by popcorn. You saw a player get pelted by a water bottle.
Yeah.
And so you're really starting to see fans show their frustration and their hatred towards certain players, like, oh man, but it also in a cowardly, because it's in cowardly fashion.
Also,
because the players can't do nothing back at you. The only thing that they can do is to tell a usher or attendant and point you out that you threw said object, and then for you to be escorted and removed from the contest.
Also, I'll say this as a Yankee fan. I mean, why this year? Are you just salty that we kind of are mediocre this year and the Red Sox are
maybe
up in the division? Why?
Jealousy?
It'd kind of make more sense. It still wouldn't be excusable, but it'd make more sense if we were battling each other out for first place in the division. We were neck and neck right now and things were super heated. This rivalry is not heated right now. The Red Sox are good. The Yankees aren't. There's no
bad blood, bad animosity.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like these past couple of years.
In this instance, instead of two players or players involved, it was a fan and an opposing player.
Yeah, and
so that shows you the fans' frustration and all of this.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of frustration right now.
It's understandable, but you don't have to throw an object at a rival player just because of it. I mean, shoot, I've thought about that a lot, but did I end up doing it? No. For instance, Mississippi State just won the college baseball national championship. Did I drive over to some Mississippi State fan's house and just melee their yard or any objects that they have? No, because
you go TP Diddley Noble,
or do what the insane Auburn fan Harvey Updike did. I mean, Alabama fan. Harvey Updike did and poison the trees at Toomer's Corner.
That's one of the worst things I've seen of.
And go on the Paul Feinbaum show the following Monday when he's back on the air and admit it.
Yeah, what an idiot!
How dumb do you have to be?
I mean, listen, you got to remember sports attracts a lot of people, and you got to remember that half of those people are
not right in the head.
Yeah, they're probably below average.
Speaking of mental health again, here we go.
So, what's the George Carlin thing? Like, you've met the average person. Now remember that half the people are below that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You're going to have some bad apples at every single sporting event wherever you go to. And oh my gosh, I mean, watching NASCAR, I've seen some things as well. Like one time Jeff Gordon won at Talladega, and it being Talladega, there's a lot of junior fans, Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans.
Oh, of course.
And they were so mad. They were like throwing beer bottles and cans at the Gordon's car as he was going around celebrating after the win. So
that makes me think of the Blues Brothers movie when they weren't playing country music and they were in a country bunker, as it was called.
We got both kinds, country and western.
And they had to come up with my favorite song, quite possibly in the movie, other than Sweet Home Chicago, and that was Rawhide.
Yeah.
Which saved their hide
from
being pelted by more glass beer bottles and other unsaid stuff.
Well, and then of course there's more examples. Like a few years ago when the Braves got so mad when in the playoffs that infield fly
rule
screwed them, and I mean that ended up being Chipper Jones' last chance.
Gosh.
And I don't blame him for being mad. And of course, if you go way back, we weren't alive for this, but who was it that had the like nickel beer night or whatever? Was it a nickel, I think, per beer or something?
Or dime.
Dime beer night, yeah.
Yeah, it was dime beer night. I can't remember what game it was, but I do remember.
But it ended in worse disaster than any of this.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
sometimes, man, fans will do crazy things.
I believe it was a baseball game.
Oh, yeah, it was baseball. I'm just trying. I'll look it up real quick because it's going to drive me crazy.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Chris. That might have been an Atlanta Braves game too. Or the Braves might have been one of the teams. But if memory serves me correct, I thought it was the Atlanta
it was
Braves.
in Cleveland, of course.
Oh, Cleveland. Okay. Well, never mind.
I'd say, of course, because back in that time, I mean, tensions were high in Cleveland. They were having, economic.
But the heart
issues.
of rock and roll is in Cleveland.
Well, hey. And
Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah.
For all of you music junkies out there like myself.
Now I'm just picturing you as like American Psycho as
Christian
Bateman.
Bale.
Yeah. But yeah, it was Cleveland Indians, and they were playing. Who were they playing?
I would not be shocked if it was a division foe.
Yeah, it was like a hot night in Cleveland. Tensions are high from economic woes. Oh, they were playing. They were playing the Rangers, and apparently they'd had like a brawl previously. So like nobody was happy in this.
You in baseball, that seems to happen in a series where if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so a weekend series, a guy gets pegged in the Friday night series, the team will remember that and respond with one of their own the following game, and it seems like that whole series, it's just as the tensions build.
And in this case, they just ended up having a riot with the fans, basically.
Which, in that Red Sox-Yankees series, I applaud the officials in charge of keeping that thing from escalating further. Now, once again, I know it was a fan to a rival player, but you never know how certain people are going to take things, especially on the other side.
Oh, well, yeah, and it probably helps that I'm sure the Yankee players were like, we don't want any part of this anyway.
Yeah, and
Oh, and another one. Remember the disco demolition night
in Chicago,
also from the 70s.
Oh my gosh, how could I not forget that one?
So that's another instance of fans just being unruly. Who are the White Sox playing that night?
My gosh, the
Tigers.
That tops them all right there to this day. That's still number one.
Yeah, I feel like one day we should like maybe delve into Dime Beer Night and Disco Demolition Night. We should like
Chris,
dive in and talk about that a little bit.
We could do a special edition of the show and do something different. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, how could I not forget that in Chicago? Or how could you not forget it?
So yeah, fans, when you're at a game, don't throw the ball.
Don't throw anything
at an opposing fan. And listen, if you are going to do the thing where you throw back the home run ball, make sure that there's not a player nearby or that you don't hit someone else in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I would just keep the ball or give it to a kid. If you don't want the ball, give it to a kid or something. Yeah, find a little kid next to you and give it to them. They'll love it.
Exactly. If you think that you're going to hit a player in the back of the head or something, just give it to a little kid. Because you will make that kid's day, believe it or not.
Oh, for sure.
And that's also in my opinion how you keep kids involved in the game of baseball, whether it's playing or just growing up to be more and more of a fan each season.
I mean, those memories make a huge difference. As of it was memories that
because
led to me growing my fandom.
Right.
So.
Because baseball already gets a lot of flack for being boring and too long. Well, let me tell you, people, if you actually knew the game of baseball, knew what was going on, and actually attended a game in the great atmospheres that we have all across the country in Major League Baseball stadiums, then you would grow to like and or love the game as well. So people that want to say that are people that they haven't attended a game and or have watched the game from start to finish. So the people that want to point that out, try going to a live baseball game and try watching it from start to finish. And then I believe you will change your mind.
Okay, well, I wanted to touch on the racing weekend real quick because there was some controversy, and it's worth at least touching on. So first of all, the Formula One race, Lewis Hamilton won, but again, not without controversy. First lap, a great battle between he and Max Verstappen. Lewis kind of takes a corner a bit wide, goes a bit above the apex, doesn't give any room to Max. Max, thinking he's probably taking the normal line, doesn't give any room to Lewis, comes over. They end up touching, sends Max into the wall, the tire barrier. He barely slows down over the rocks. Thank goodness he wasn't seriously injured. Lewis ends up getting a penalty because the fault was mostly on him, and he got a 10-second time penalty, but he's able to come back from that 10-second penalty after the pit stop to win the race anyway, which drives some of the more, let's say, anti-Lewis fans out there mad because they felt like, oh, he should have got more. There were some people out there saying that, like, Lewis Hamilton should have been like taken out of the race or suspended or something, which is just crazy to me, especially someone who watches NASCAR and I'm used to some contact happening all the time. But I know that open wheel is different. However, even more, I think, of a problem after the race. I mean, Lewis Hamilton is the one black driver, and of course, there was some real bad comments on social media that were going around after that happened. So, things I'm not going to repeat here, but it was bad enough to where all the teams and like Formula One and FIA had to come out and like denounce, like, we do not support any bad racist comments directed towards Lewis Hamilton. So I guess this kind of goes to the previous statement. Fans, just don't be crazy. Like, he got his penalty from the FIA, and it's pretty incredible that he came back from a 10-second penalty in a Formula One race to win anyway. So, sit back and just enjoy the show. It's okay to be mad, but don't
take it out. Yeah.
Don't be a racist jerk. I could say more, but
don't take it out verbally or physically.
Yeah, thankfully you don't really see many physical altercations in Formula One, but yeah, fans don't get physical either.
And it's crazy how we've touched on 3 straight topics, and it's been about these crazy people.
Yeah.
Involved in sporting events.
And again, thanks to the wonders of social media, we get to like see it all real time and get to experience all the crazy. But moving, so that kind of covers Formula One. Just the brief I want to talk about there. To get more of this, though, the NASCAR race also had controversy.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
They started the race with a bit of a drizzle falling.
Okay.
Which they've raced through drizzle before because once the cars get going, they kind of keep the track dry themselves.
Yeah.
However, some of the drivers did voice concerns. Now I was listening to the Suarez radio, and I just heard him mention a little. They call them weepers, where some water comes out from under the track, but he was good to go. He wasn't saying that they shouldn't start, but some drivers were saying they shouldn't start the race. They started anyway, and they do have people positioned around the track to report if it's raining too heavy. But as soon as they start, each lap, it progressively picked up a little heavier, a little heavier. Shortly thereafter, it got heavy enough to where you see the cars go into turn 1, and they kind of got loose a little bit, some of them, because the track was getting too wet. And by the next lap, we had 4 or 5 cars wreck, including the leader, Kyle Busch, backed it into the wall because he just lost control over the rainwater, and he was out of the race. 2 other Joe Gibbs cars, Truex and Hamlin, they got some damage, but were able to keep going. PR nightmare for NASCAR. They ended up giving an excuse about how it was just drizzling and we didn't know. But, of course, a lot of fans weren't hearing it, and we're all up in arms on social media.
Joe Gibbs, that's a very familiar name.
Oh, yeah.
That comes to mind.
It's that NFL crossover. And
yep.
Hey, his first driver was my favorite guy, Dale Jarrett, back in the day. So
the
small
2-time Super Bowl winning head coach of the Washington Redskins, who are no longer called the Redskins. They are now called the Washington Football Team.
Yeah, hopefully they figure out a name soon enough.
I want them to be the Sentinels so bad, like off of the movie The Replacements. But I got a feeling it's not going to happen.
Who would have ever thought, though, that Joe Gibbs would have more championships in NASCAR than in football?
I never would have thought that.
How about that? But then to add even more controversy, they had to stop the race early because it was getting dark and there's no lights around New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So they ended the race early after wrecking some cars because of rain. And
once again, rain.
Yeah, I guess one good story out of this, Eric Almirola won the race, which was a huge surprise. He's had a terrible year, and he just came out of nowhere to win this race. So he'll be in the playoffs.
All right.
Which will probably mean like a first-round exit, but we'll see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. So you're telling me
there's a chance?
Yeah, that's literally just having a terrible year. Thankfully, no racist stuff going on in the comments here. Just people saying that like NASCAR is the worst officiating body in racing. I think it's an important time to remember that this same thing has happened in IndyCar, in rally racing, in Formula One, in even endurance racing. It's just they don't want to have to stop for rain, so sometimes they push it a little bit too far, and it's an egg in their face. I will say, though, perhaps after the egg in their face at the Circuit of the Americas when it was raining so heavy, they probably should have edged on the side of caution because they've already had rain issues this year. But they took a chance. It backfired. It really is unfortunate for Kyle Busch. There's really no undoing that. Oh, another thing. Kyle Busch was so angry, he was like bumping the pace car, like he was hitting the pace car under caution.
That's not surprising at all.
So I'm curious if he's going to get a fine today. We'll see about that.
That's not surprising at all because we all know he has rage issues.
Yeah, so he was not a happy
common
camper.
sense tells you do not be rageful while at the wheel of a speeding bullet of a NASCAR.
Well, and I'll close with this. I was amazed that the TV NBC was brave enough to interview him after he got out of the car.
Wow, that takes a lot of cojones.
But even more amazing was he didn't say anything bad. Whenever they asked something that would make him, that I knew he would say something bad, he was just like, I'm not going to say anything or else I'll get in trouble. So he just gave a short interview and he was calm and collected. And
that's good.
I was surprised. But
that is very surprising coming from him.
So a controversial weekend in racing, and both Formula One and NASCAR again. Just it's okay to be mad about it, but don't be stupid about it. While we're on racing, I want to talk about the random page real quick. I went to racingreference.info and, of course, chose random. Now, today it gave me something I'm not quite as familiar on. It's the 1982 Pro Vemi Ville Tony Bittenhausen 200. It was a kart race. So race 6 of 11 from 1982 is on Sunday, August 1st. I'm not super familiar with the kart series, especially before
Mario.
Especially before when the split happened and then they, IndyCar sort of rose to prominence. So I'm not as familiar. Tom Sneva won. Bobby Rahal finished second. Now, this is a name, of course, familiar with, but Mario Andretti finished third.
Mario Andretti.
Now, here's an interesting name, finishing fourth, Howdy Holmes. Sounds like a Western character name or something.
Howdy, partner.
Yeah, exactly.
What a name, though.
Yeah. Anybody else I recognize? Rick Mears, 12th. Roger Mears, 14th.
Brothers?
I don't know, actually.
Cousins.
Now, somebody who did not start for some reason, Al Unser. Now, that's a name I know pretty well. But, yeah, Tom Sneva won. He led 72 of 200 laps. Wow. Rick Mears had engine issues when he finished 12th. He led 126 laps. And, oh, man, he was driving for Roger Penske all the way back then. So... Let me see who won the championship this year. And then, 1982, Rick Mears won the championship with that Penske ride. So I guess not all that surprising that he was having such a good day before the engine issues. Bobby Rahal finished second, Mario Andretti third in the standings, which just coincidentally they finished second and third in this race. So, yeah, that was the 1982 race number 6 of 11. It was at the Milwaukee Mile. Kart race, 200 laps. Tom Sneva 1, Mario Andretti 3rd, and Al Unser did not start for some reason. All right, well, before we close out, you got any shout-outs?
Well, I don't have any shout-outs in particular, but some news, unfortunate news as of that, came earlier this morning. Cam Akers, as a lot of people that cover or follow high school football in the state of Mississippi, you will very much know, the running back that played at Clinton High School in Clinton, Mississippi. Ironically, I was in Clinton over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And stayed there for 2 nights. And Cam Akers also continued playing at the collegiate level for the Florida State Seminoles. He was drafted in the 2nd round of the 2020 NFL Draft by the Los Angeles Rams. News broke this morning that he tore his Achilles while training. And, of course, this was leading up to training camp, because training camp hasn't officially started just yet for NFL teams. But he tears his Achilles while training and will now, unfortunately, miss the 2021 NFL season. So that's a huge blow for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yes.
As Cam Akers was their leading rusher from a season ago with 625 rushing yards.
It's disappointing. I hate it for him.
The Los Angeles Rams will now have to rely heavily on another Mississippian. How ironic.
Yeah.
In Darrell Henderson, who played running back at South Panola High School in Batesville, Mississippi. And he also played at the collegiate level, running back for the Memphis Tigers. So all of a sudden, Darrell Henderson now becomes the primary starter. A name to watch out for, Chris, is former MVP and Los Angeles Rams running back Todd Gurley, who is yet to be signed by an NFL team. So that's a name to look out for, where Gurley and the Rams could potentially reunite together.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Something to look out for.
But other notable running backs on the roster is the 7th round draft pick from this year's NFL draft from Maryland in Jake Funk. That's another guy to look out for some major reps at the running back position. And undrafted free agent signee Xavier Jones.
Okay.
So those are 2 other names to look out for in the Rams backfield, but obviously Darrell Henderson, another Mississippian. So you had 2 Mississippians that were 1 and 2.
Yeah, how about that?
Unfortunately, Akers is now lost for the season before training camp even begins.
Yeah, it's just disastrous.
And so you go from 1 Mississippian to Mississippian, as now Darrell Henderson will take the majority of the reps in that running back room. And obviously you got to look for a potential reunion between Todd Gurley and the Rams.
Yeah, it could be quite possible.
Because Darrell Henderson, the past few years, he's had a lot of injury history. So you don't feel very confident and or comfortable going forward with him being your starter. So you're definitely going to have to look at either reuniting with Todd Gurley, making a trade, or bringing somebody in that has experience, because Darrell Henderson will not give you a long-term option, in my opinion, this year at running back, when you're now in a win or bust type of a season and or seasons to follow after you just acquired Matthew Stafford from the Detroit Lions,
right,
to become your new starting quarterback. You're definitely in a win now mode. So you obviously have got to have pieces in place after acquiring Matthew Stafford to really help you this season in a very tough division, I might add. The NFC West is no joke, no laughing matter. That division is arguably one of, if not the toughest division in all of football. And so you're definitely going to need a reliable back to hand the ball off. So this obviously was a huge blow today for the Los Angeles Rams. Just going to be interesting to see if Darrell Henderson can take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and really, pardon the pun here, really run off.
Well, use the situation to his advantage.
With his new starting role, and hopefully stay injury free this season. So that's all I have.
All right. Well, I have a quick shout out, just something I thought was pretty cool. Saw where ESPN is going to do an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, which
is
something I'm definitely looking forward to, because, well, I just enjoy the Mannings.
And they're hilarious.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're going to be cutting up during the broadcast, which will be great. I hope they do. And I see where they haven't announced like a host yet, I guess, to sort of be the guiding force.
Okay.
It'd be kind of funny if they had to just make it Cooper, because I know he does entertainment stuff. He's on TV a lot. So you know what? Just make it Cooper. Make it Cooper, Peyton, and Eli. That would be a hilarious broadcast, and maybe, throw some insight in as well. All right. Well, thank y'all for listening to this episode of the Sport Fanatics Podcast, episode 10, July 20th, 2021. We got that NBA final game tonight, Game 6. Be sure to check that out.
Big game, must-win game for the Phoenix Suns.
For sure.
If they want to keep their season alive.
Yeah, they've got to do it tonight. So
and you've got to do it at a place where this Milwaukee Bucks team has only lost one basketball game, and that was in the Eastern Conference Finals, just game 1 though.
When Atlanta had an incredible game.
Right,
so.
in a 3-point defeat to the Atlanta Hawks.
And you can follow us at Sport Fanatics on Twitter.
Follow us.
You can follow me at Christopheles11, ChrisTopHoles11 on Twitter. And where can they find you, J. Mike?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I have the same handle on both accounts, and it is at J_MikeCheck. And please feel free to add me as a friend on Facebook. I'd love to interact with you, whatever you'd like to talk about, sports related, and please let it be sports related. I hate politics. I do not like politics and sports whatsoever. But please let it be sports related, since we have this sport
podcast
show here, sports podcast, and please let it be pertaining to sports. But yeah, please feel free to ask me any questions. If you'd like for us to talk about and or discuss anything on the podcast, please reach out to either one of us, and we'll get back to you. And who knows, maybe we could end up putting it on a show or whatnot. But yeah, please feel free to follow us both on social media.
Yeah, and thank y'all for listening to this episode, and
episode 10. We've got already 10 in the books.
Yeah, we're getting in the double digits now. So,
but thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it as always.
Yeah, and y'all have a good week.
And we shall see you and talk to you again on Friday.
Adios.